there's fear of the fintech. So we're starting to see now more upticks in terms of cybersecurity, more regulation. So perhaps you can break down some of the fears, and are they real?
Certainly, cybersecurity is a real fear, and I have a number of colleagues who spend most of their time on cybersecurity issues for companies in a wide variety of industries. A hacking event, a ransomware event, some other kind of event that either brings your service down or captures your data or your client's data or otherwise causes some kinds of problems to your systems is a huge problem. So definitely cybersecurity is a worry. Yep.
Do people care anymore? We think, you go back to some of the classic credit card manipulations and security breaches, whether it was Home Depot 8, 10 months ago, or some of the other well-known ones. But yet, everybody's there, everybody's swiping, or at this point, I guess, using their chip. So is there we're concerned, but is there real reputational risk anymore? Or is there just an expectation?
Consumers have an expectation that their data will be safe. Companies, by and large, do a good job of trying to keep that information safe. I think hackers are particularly creative and will find ways, not consistently, not every minute of every day, but will find ways to get past defenses. So this is a classic case of you create your defenses, the hackers attack them, you improve your defenses, the hackers improve. And so it's a cat and mouse game between the hackers and the companies. There are certainly, I think, good cybersecurity procedures that you can implement. If you have a good cybersecurity team, if you have good consultants and legal advisors on cybersecurity, you can, by and large, stay ahead of the hackers. But it's always going to be the case that there are weak links to worry about.
Now, one of the things we talk about several times on some of our past blogs is legacy technologies. And I think, most recently there was a security breach around Microsoft, specifically around Microsoft NT, and then a lot of patches. And that wasn't just financial services, that was kind of across the board. How is cybersecurity impacting a lot of institutions in their IT spending in terms of updating current systems or legacy systems on things that or like common tools that we use every day, like Microsoft Office?
It's a good question. Look, the need to update your software is a critical part of good cybersecurity, good cyber hygiene, if you will. And I do think that a lot of companies have weak links because they are using legacy software or they're not sufficiently protecting legacy software or updating the legacy software. The flip side of that is that there are some core systems at companies that really will be very difficult to change. And so you need to be prepared to protect those kinds of systems.
Silicon Valley's hot. There's more companies now with kind of silly names that we've never encountered as we did in the past, back in the good old days with like Cooper's Lime Brand and or Price Waterhouse Coopers.
Right.
Nice, good, formal, traditional names, and now we can't have a conversation without talking about Twitter and tweeting. So obviously a lot of talent, good software. Being built, utilizing good open source type solutions, pulling everybody into the Silicon Valley. How are the banks competing when they have these huge legacy systems, yet large digitalization imperatives to reduce their costs? Where's the talent for them?
Part of what they're doing, as I said before, was they're trying to make targeted investments using a venture capital type of or merchant banking type of powers that they might, or abilities that they might have. I do think that they are in touch with a lot of these smaller firms, but your point about legacy systems is a big one, and it is often very difficult to overcome your legacy systems. I think, frankly, some of the fintech companies that are the challengers to traditional financial services are going to find that they themselves will have to deal with the legacy system problem at some point. If we see significant developments in artificial intelligence and machine learning, and those things are not incorporated into what existing fintech companies are doing, or are not easily capable of being incorporated into their existing platforms, you may see that they're struggling with legacy technology in a few years, depending on how those developments go. It's tough questions for business teams, tough questions for CIOs and their teams to answer.
Staying on our theme here of fearing the fintech, we've seen a lot come out in terms of new regulatory guidance of fintech, and obviously cybersecurity has a good chunk to do with that, but also management of systemic risk. So perhaps you can give us a kind of a little bit of a snapshot of where is the regulatory thinking right now, specifically for fintech.
Yeah, that's a good question, and so in talking about cybersecurity, that's really sort of what I think of as operational risk. And in thinking about systemic risk, we look at things that happened in the 2008 financial crisis. So you can go back in time and look at other financial crises. I think that regulators are concerned that fintech companies will pose risk to the system overall. The fintech companies, or at least many of the ones that I talk with, actually see themselves as good contributors to the strength of the system by providing alternative types of services, by creating new markets and reaching new people who've been either unserved or underserved from a financial services standpoint. To me, those are some of the main goals out of Dodd-Frank and Basel III, in order to encourage these new players to grow and thrive in the environment, so that not everything is consolidated at the traditional banks. All of that said, regulators typically worry about things that are new and untested, and that's why regulators are being, I think, cautiously optimistic about fintech and its contributions to the industry.